I don't know if Nikki, did you want to share some words to start us off?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. We just got a bunch of snow down here in Flagstaff, and maybe Kelsey did too in Colorado. But one of the things that we do is roll into snow when we get new snow, and we take a snow bath. And then, you know, we have to strip down, not all the way to our birthday suits, but and roll around in it, and including our kids, not infants, of course. And then it's kind of like cleansing, and we kind of, you know, yell out to the top of our voice, just being showing our gratefulness to the holy people that we're getting moisture and snow. So did that this morning. It's just made me like even more happier. I'm a pretty happy person, but the snow made me really grateful. Also, my kids have a snow day, so they're even extra happy today. So this is after like 4 or 5 years of having no snow during the winter time. So we're really grateful. And the other thing we're really grateful is for you all to be here joining us for a wonderful presentation. And hopefully you'll get a lot of information out of it. But I guess really quick, Ken, I don't know if you know who I am. I should introduce myself. My name is Nikki Cooley. I'm one of the co-managers of the Tribes and Climate Change Program, along with Karen, who is not able to make it this time around. But yeah, I'm really grateful for all the cohort members to be here and whatnot. So again, I'm glad that you're here, and I'll pass it back over to Julie to continue our agenda. So if you have snow, I know you guys probably have snow all the time, so you're probably rolling it around in it all the time. But for us, it's a treat. So, and Julie, go ahead, take it away before I keep talking about it.
Love it. Well, actually, I'm in Nevada City, California right now, and when we got in last night about 9 p.m., there were some snow flurries here. So, thank you for sending them towards the west. It was lovely. Maybe Kelsey, are you able to share your screen, or do you want me to share on this end?
Whatever you prefer. Whatever is easiest, Julie.
Actually, maybe, yeah, if you want to put yours up, maybe that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Emojis. I'm going to find a snow emoji for you, Julie.
See, this Nikki did her updates. Very good. So as Nikki said, huge thanks everyone for joining us today. There it is. Excellent. So this is the second of our emergency management focus sessions. And I know we're doing, you know, quite a broad overview as we're covering a number of different topics, right, throughout this training. You know, last time, huge thanks to John and Jesse and Joanne for sharing the context around planning, around hazard mitigation plans, and then opportunities that emerge from that in the funding and direct technical assistance context. And then we're really excited today and grateful for Ken is joining us from the Shoalwater Bay Indian Tribe to talk through of, you know, how you really go from that planning into action of how do you implement what you have said you're going to do. And so he's going to be discussing their tsunami evacuation tower and what they've done in that process, how they've been able to develop it and get that going. And then we're going to be talking through what we shared with you ahead of the call was that document that Kelsey sent around in terms of considering natural hazards. We'll have small group discussions around those questions. So if you haven't been able to, you know, get to them ahead of time, we'll have that pulled up and just be talking through together from your own context and what's happening within your own tribes and communities. Come back together and then talk through some retreat logistics, which I know I'm sure we all have questions, so it'll be time to go over any questions on that and some of the logistics and also the travel form if anyone hasn't filled that out yet. So with that, I would love to.
If you can hear me, The screen is completely frozen. So I'm going to pause until I can hear again. As I'm on my end, Julie, the screen's completely locked up. I can see your still photo, but the mouse moving about.
Hey, Ken, so I think that might just be on Julie's end.
It's not. All right.
There
I
we
got
go.
you.
So yeah, I think we can go ahead and turn it over to you whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, my name is Ken Ufkin. I'm the Director of Emergency Management for the Shoalwater Bay Indian Tribe. Talking to you a little bit about the tribe's journey towards bringing hazard mitigation to life, a monumental project brought to life. So I'm just going to jump right into it. As soon as I figure out how to share my screen, there we go, share screen. Go with screen one. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, I can see that, Ken. If you just want to put it in presentation mode, then I think.
I'm working on, hey, it's cooperating. Do you have it up or?
Yes, we can see it, but
I need
you
to
can see the
flop
next slide. Yeah.
I need to flip it. I'm on the
Okay.
wrong screen, guys. I apologize for my boobery here. I'll get it squared away in just a second. Just move this over here and try it again. How's that? Is that mo better?
Maybe, Ken, if you go to display settings at the top
Yeah.
bar. and
Display
then
settings on my
on your screen at the very top. Yeah, and then that might say swap, yeah, presenter view and slide. There you go. And it's perfect.
I knew that. No, thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate that. All right. So I remember my first earthquake. It was I was really shaken up by that event. No, seriously. Sorry. I was in a conference room at a hotel in Anchorage. It was late or like September, October of 2012. And before the presentation started, the presenter took a moment to go over some safety items. Top of the list was, in the event of an earthquake, take cover under these very substantial tables. If you look over your head, you'll see these big, beautiful chandeliers. They will be raining down on your heads. So don't try to run for the exits, get under the tables. That was my first education on earthquakes. And those chandeliers, by the way, did rain down onto the tables that protected us. So that was really good information that came out in that first 5 minutes of that presentation. So here we are, the tsunami evacuation tower, and we're going to just kind of go over the project history. So forgive me if I get like the first 2017 to 2020 part, any bits of that incorrect. I wasn't here. This is memorized history on my part. I would like to say a few things regarding this project and any others like it. It's been said that knowledge is power. For example, knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. And speaking of wisdom, for some it's been said wisdom has been chasing them their whole lives, but they've been too fast. So we need to slow down and gain from the wisdom and knowledge of those around us to ensure the legacy of our respective tribes, in this case, the Shoalwater Bay tribe, so it may continue in the generations to come. In 2008, a FEMA report ranked Washington's risk of economic loss from a devastating earthquake as second nationally behind California. Around 2010, Project Safe Haven came to Pacific County. There was a vast number of resources that were brought to bear for this project. I'm just going to name off a few, and if I've missed some of the entities involved, I apologize. We had the research team, College of Built Environments, Department of Urban Design and Planning Oversight Team, Institute of Hazards Mitigation Planning and Research, UW's mathematicians Randy Levesque and Lois Adams were also part of that project. Washington State Emergency Management Division, John Schelling, state lead, was an integral figure on that. FEMA Region 10, USGS, NOAA, Deegan Kolb Engineering, KL Ash, namely was the technical advisor on that, Pacific County Emergency Management Agency, Shoalwater Bay Tribe, and the city of Long Beach also participated in this project. So in 2017, I believe it was around July, my predecessor, Lee Shipman, got a phone call from John Schelling and said, hey, there's this opportunity from FEMA to get a grant to see if you guys are even eligible, and if you're going to do that, you need to do it right now. So they were in a time crunch from the get-go. So they filled out necessary paperwork and got a $36,500 pre-award for engineering, and they whipped up a design real quick. Well, if you back up to 2015, there had already been work begun on the Acosta K-12 school, which is in Westport. That is not a standalone tower like the one here in Shoalwater. It's a tower incorporated into that K-12 school. So there was that in the background. Using geotech sampling from that site, they moved forward with a conceptual design for the tower that we would have, and more on that in a little bit. So the PDM grant application was due in November 2017. Like I said, it was a really narrow time frame, and they got it cranked out. And that's tower that you see in this image at the top left of the screen is where it started, and it eventually evolved into the representation you see below it. And then you'll see later that the finished product looks like that bottom photo. So the Shoalwater Bay Tribe opted, and it was their choice to site it where you see here on the peninsula. If you see that yellow square on the aerial view, if you go 1.2 miles to the north of that, up towards the mainland, that's where the tribal center resides. That's also on reservation, which is about 1 square mile, and about 100 Shoalwater Bay tribal members live on reservation. That yellow square is 1.2 miles away from the reservation. Now, with that said, there's the community of Blackberry is tribally owned land. And as far as I know, and somebody correct me if I get this wrong, is not reservation as of yet. But that's the last vestige of tribal members living in that portion of Oakland. It's otherwise surrounded by about 100 or so non-tribal members, although there are a few intermingled into the residents along the peninsula there. The reason I bring this up is the Shoalwater Bay Tribe could have put that tower on the reservation, but being the good neighbors that the tribe is, they opted to put it centrally located on the peninsula, because you can see where it is. I told you it's about 1.2 miles back to mainland. It's about another mile down to the tip of that Oakland Peninsula. They sited it in that location so that people could make the walk times necessary. It's about a 30-minute window with a Cascadia event to exit wherever you are and make your way to high ground before those first inundations make landfall. So the project started to gain traction. They went back to FEMA, said, here we have this engineered model that we believe will suffice for the requirements of FEMA. They got the grant, 1.98 million construction cost estimate. FEMA provided a 2.2 million award for the project. But that was just the beginning of the story. Design began in June 25th, 2019, with the goals of a 50-foot safe refuge, 400 people occupancy, and about 4,000 square feet. The way they were able to arrive at this kind of data was based on the work that had been done previously by the Project Safe Haven folks. We knew going into it that it would need to be secured, but you need to be able to get into it 24/7, whether somebody's there to unlock the door for you or not. And we'll go into more about how we came up with a solution for that later. And that it would need backup power, among other things. And the intent was for this to be largely funded by a PDM grant. Geotechnical investigations later revealed some ugly truths that cost the tribe a bit of money. We ended up going back to FEMA. So the initial findings were available in late September 2019 when they did some auger pile testing or geotech testing borings there on the site where it sits now. They discovered that the geotech assumptions they had made based on the Ocosta project were seriously mistaken. They were not even remotely the same. So it to go back to the drawing board. Unfortunately, it was a very expensive assumption that was made. So redesign due to geotech. Although the design was nearly 50% complete, redesign was completed from 6 to 4 column layout to account for the liquefaction issues, and more on that in a moment. But if you look at this model here, this is an honest representation of what the finished product looks like. And also, I want you to take note of a few things. If you go back, I'll just backspace really quick so you can see that initial tower design. You see in the top left there a central staircase and 6 legs. So I changed from that to what you see here: 4 legs, 2 separate stairwells. More on that in a moment too. I'm just leading you up to it, guys, so forgive me if I get going. So we had a problem. We needed to get through it. As a person who's been teaching classes and instructing adults for over 20 years now, I enjoy a little bit of wisdom that I find from various movies, and they're usually kids' movies because I have a lot of those kids, that is.
It's late. What do I do? We stuck here forever. Do not panic. We are trained professionals. Now stay calm. We are going around the leaf. I don't think we can do that. Oh, nonsense. This is nothing compared to the twig of 93. That's it. Good. You're doing great. There you go. There you go. Watch my eyes. Don't look away. And here's the line again. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Soil.
So I love this one because I've been in public safety my entire adult life and had to go around the leaf quite a bit. I'm not familiar with the after action review on the twig of 93, but it sounds like it was pretty serious. And my slideshow isn't advancing. There we go. So inundation modeling. I am not going to try to get into the minutia of the math that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. Just so you know, I'm not a math guy. I'm really great with language, not math. Inundation modeling from the University of Washington. So what this project Safe Haven team came up with was a few key hazard parameters with which the engineers took that data and came up with the tower design. So some of those key parameters are the maximum inundation height. We know will be from modeling about 20.2 feet. The tsunami flow velocity is about 22 feet per second, which in English, I think that's about 14 miles per hour, thereabouts. With the first arrival times, and again, this is based on a Cascadia slip and a tsunami emanating from that earthquake, from a 9.0 or worse. So that arrival time, and this varies around the entire coast. So please, if you live on a coast in a coastal region, don't think this applies to you. You need to know the modeling for the specific area you're in. Because just from where I'm sitting near the tribal center, you go about 1.5 miles north, and that arrival time changes to about 15 minutes. So it varies wildly based on a bunch of factors. And then you're looking at high waves throughout the first 6 hours and about 12 hours to 24 hours of continued wave action. And I could paint a much bleaker picture than that for the Oakland Peninsula, but I won't. More math. So you see that diagram at the bottom. Again, more information that came from the team. The inflow and outflow of tsunami waves. You have to account for that first 6 hours of those big waves. So they come in they go back out, they come in, they go back out. It creates a lot of scouring. It creates an awful lot of dynamic pressure, hydrodynamic drag on those columns, which was the primary reason for going back to a redesign, and more about those columns and the stairwell design also tie into some of these factors presented on this slide. I just threw this one in here so you can get a good visual of kind of what's going on with the scouring that will occur around each of those columns. And they had to come up with some solutions to keep this whole thing from falling over. And this is just one of many. Just the hydrodynamic drag is only one piece of it. We'll see in this next one, the debris impacts and loads are just monumental. You know, you could be looking at logs, shipping containers, boats, homes, cars, and other large pieces of debris sailing into that structure at velocities of better than 14 miles an hour. And when you factor in their weight, velocity, and so on, you get an idea in your head of just how significant. That photo down there in bottom left is from the 2011 Tohoku, Japan tsunami. Was there a question? No. All right. So moving on. Structural redesign. Going into it, they knew they needed to change it to a 4-post design and sink those suckers down about 55 feet based on the modeling and information they had. That first refuge level needed to be at least 33 feet above grade. And based on their math, they knew they were going to need 5-foot columns, 21-inch square filled with concrete. And this little piece right here, everybody see this purplish blue column down here? That is the below grade tie-in structure. It's this massive structure that you can't see. It's beneath your feet. It ties all 4 legs together and accounts for that lateral spreading that will occur during the earthquake. And then, of course, with the debris loads and what have you, that will slam into it, particularly from this side where it says grade beam, is the side that will take the brunt of the initial inundation that will bring with it who knows what kind of debris. But the angle that trajectory is expected, that side will probably lose its stairwell. But I do have a great deal of confidence that this structure will remain standing based on listening to the PhD level engineers and mathematicians explain it. So the stair design. This part's pretty interesting, and I can't say I completely understand it. But the short version is, if those stairs, they're on the right-hand side of the image, take a direct hit from large, heavy objects, they've been designed to break away and shift without taking the tower with it. This, of course, costs money because we had to go back to the drawing boards. It was to the tune of about $136,000, $148,000, something like that. Foundation redesign required an additional rounds of design revision and peer review. So it went back out to that group of really smart people with PhDs to review the amended design of the structure. And this, of course, led to delaying and permits, and everybody remember what happened in March of 2020. The pandemic shut everything down, and public meetings and hearings were no longer an option. People were home, not working, so it put the brakes on the project for a little bit. Then the project it initially went out to bid in November 2020. We landed on HHJ, I believe was the company that won that bid. And then they later withdrew their bid because right around January, the cost of steel, the steel index just went through the roof, the highest that had ever been seen. Then it went back out to rebid in April 21. We got our next low bid, which 2.6 million. Roglins, and if you remember, we got 2.2 from FEMA. So we had to go back to FEMA with our hands out and go, hey, this thing happened. Can you help us out? I was quite pleased to see that FEMA didn't offer any resistance on that. And they said, yes, we understand. and they upfunded it. And when that process is done, we got it to 2.8 million for the project. There was something else I wanted to state on this and I forgot. So here's some of the design challenges we had to consider. Firstly was that central staircase on the original design meant if something happened during the initial earthquake, there'd be no way to get on the tower. So it made sense to have two stairwells. And there's, of course, several other factors. The original staircase was a steep rise. That meant only the more fit among us would be able to make that. And it had no accounting for people with physical limitations. That said, there is not an elevator for obvious reasons. This thing runs off of a 24-volt electrical system, and we can't very well expect something like an elevator to be functional after an earthquake. So the rise of these stairs is such that even a person in a wheelchair, as long as somebody with them has the strength to pull them up, it can be done. There's a few steps per section, and then you'll have a little landing, and then a few more steps, and then another landing, and then you make it to that first level. It's not great, but it's better than nothing. So I get this question quite a bit. Well, your tower's not handicap accessible. Like, I didn't design it, and a lot of people way smarter than me came up with this. Take it up with them is about the best I can come up with. We've had a few solutions and ideas. If you're not familiar with what a stair chair is, it's something that paramedics tote around in their ambulances. You can take an immobile person and put them in the chair, and it's fairly easy to go up and down stairs with them, but it requires a person or two with physical strength to be able to accomplish that. So this tower sits about 1,200 feet from the ocean. You don't see it in any of these images. But just across the street are a group of homes, and then just beyond that is where the Shoalwater Bay meets land. Some of the security concerns: how do we get people in and out 24/7? So you'll see in that top right image, break glass to release doors. You see that little blue box. You take the little piece of metal, break the box, the switch being held in place by the glass pops out, and the electromagnetic lock right here opens that door, makes an alarm sound, kicks on the lights, and notifies police that something's going on at the tower. And then this box over here to the left is the Knox box for the fire department. The security fencing is a welded fencing. It's about 12 feet tall, I believe. And the openings are very small. So I imagine a ninja could make their way up and over, but regular folks won't. The way the system works, for the electricity, that is, power comes in at the base of the tower, goes up to these two boxes. It goes into this one first, where the power is transferred over to the batteries after it's stepped down, charges those batteries, and then all of the power in that tower is converted to 24 volt and is always running off of 24 volts. So what that means is when the ground shakes and we immediately lose power, the tower does not. It will have continuous power for about 3 days. And I've talked to our communications guy. His name's Rick Wilcox. He's just been one of those foundational people that's been in this community for better than 50 years and has a wealth of knowledge for all things communications, but he's also pretty sharp when it comes to this type of electronics. And so he and I have been kicking around some solutions to get better than 3 days out of this system. The other thing we needed to consider was you have a group of people up to 400 could be on this tower at a given time. And so we need to supply food, water, sanitation, blankets, heaters, etc. for these folks, which left us where do we put it? So you see these dock boxes, they're fiberglass marine grade dock boxes that line the perimeter of both decks. There's 28 of them. And they're filled with emergency water rations and Mylar packages. enough water and food. So enough water for 400 people for one day. And the reason I only went one day for up to 400 people is in reality, based on all of the facts that we know about what will occur in the first 10 minutes of earthquake and then post-earthquake by 5 minutes or so, the conditions will be so bad, I would be shocked to see more than 20 people on that cascading event, to be honest. So with it being equipped with enough food, water, medical, radio equipment, etc., for 400 people for one day means the 20 or so people can make it a really long time if needs be. Ideally, you wouldn't be on this tower for more than 24 hours, but just in case, I want to make sure that you don't get saved from the tsunami and then die of dysentery later because there's no sanitation or there's no water or no food, etc. So project success came in May 17, 2021. We had our groundbreaking ceremony. The days and months and years or year and change that followed wasn't without its hangups, but groundbreaking was a happy day. It meant we finally got a start, an actual honest to God start on this thing. And then the dedication occurred August 5th, which you would think means the tower is done, and it is more or less. Today, they're finally installing the lock cores on the locks. I could spend a half hour complaining to you guys about those locks. It's been fun, but it doesn't matter what happened then. What matters is it's done now. So completed project July 2022. That is the finished product, and you'll see that it looks an awful lot like that second rendering. So here's some statistics to share with you about this tower. It was designed for 400 person occupancy at 10 square feet per person. That was according to the FEMA standard you see below it. Design inundation depth of 20.2 feet with a velocity of 22 feet per second. Refuge levels are at 33 and 43 feet above grade. Drilled shaft foundations are 5 feet in diameter and they go into the ground 55 feet deep. And you remember that blue column from the image ties those 4 legs together beneath the grade. It was peer reviewed not once, but twice by practicing engineers and university faculty with the tsunami research. And of course, we have the 24/7 accessibility with backup batteries and emergency communications equipment. There's some lessons to be learned from this. I just realized this is my 3rd iteration of the slideshow, and the one where I did some updates is sitting on a thumb drive that I'm not sharing with you. So if you're interested in knowing what some of that equipment looks like, I can email you guys pictures later. But some of the lessons learned, evacuation tower is very unique in terms of building code, meaning unique was a nice way to say they didn't exist before this project. So the engineering team had to work with others in the engineering world and people who do zoning and building code requirements and come up with solutions and legal terms to be incorporated into what this looks like going forward. The project budget should factor in the timeline to finalize grant award. What that line means is going back early in the conversation, that 2017 PDM grant award left the tribe with woefully little time to get together an engineering plan to come up with a design. And that was based on liquefaction and geotech information from a few miles away in Westport turned out to not be adequate. Had the team had the appropriate time, they would have gone and done geotech sampling on the site it was to be built. But there wasn't. So this is one of those things that came up years later. I was one of the ones shouting to a group of government Office of Accountability, GAO, Government Accountability Office representatives came to Washington late last year, and I was invited to come speak to them. And that was my main point of contention, was there was just wholly inadequate time to get that kind of information together for a project of this magnitude. And because it was such a short time, it was $146,000. Oops, we should have had more time to take a harder look at this. So it's all good. Yeah, it all works out in the end. Advance assistance from HMGP funding could have allowed geotechnical investigations to be completed earlier in the project. And then, of course, FEMA grant funding was absolutely essential to this project. And the tribe had a 10% cost share to that. And that was another thing I brought up in that meeting, was the tribe is blessed to have the 10% for this. Not everyone has that ability. Many of the communities in Washington are quite poor and don't have that kind of money laying around to throw at a project like this, although they very much need it. So hopefully that voice, my voice and many others like it, were heard, and that makes its way up to the decision makers in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions from me? And I got to figure out how to stop sharing now.
Thank you so much, Ken. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I appreciated, similar to Joanne's comment in the chat earlier about, the accessibility of this and keeping in mind what it's for. And then also your point that you came around at the end about the 10% shared cost. Well, that has been lowered over time, that 10% still remains very unattainable for so many communities.
All right, Nikki, you want to walk me through? I'm stuck again. I don't know. I'm sharing my screen. Am I in the right? You guys can still see me, right?
Yeah. Ken, if you go up to the.
Oh, there you go.
You
My
go.
Zoom screen had disappeared and I couldn't find it. Now I know how.
Beautiful. So just wanted to open up this space if folks have any questions, comments they'd like to share with Ken.
I don't see a stop sharing option. I apologize, guys, for screwing this up. Sharing was easy. Unsharing is proving to be more challenging.
Where it's all a work in progress.
No doubt. Good gracious. Oh, stop share. There we go. It was the big red tab that said stop share. Got it. You have control of your screen back. You're welcome.
I just wanted to hide it from you.
Exactly.
So do you want to, yeah, Ken, if you have some time to stay on for some questions, comments folks have, that would be fantastic. Thank you. So if anyone does have a question, if you want to, you can either use the raise hand function, or if you want to just go ahead and unmute, that works great. And I don't know if, Nikki, it doesn't look like, do we have anyone on the phone? Scrolling through.
Yeah,
we do have someone from, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Nikki, sorry.
We have someone from 907-588-8212.
Oh, now I see it. Thank you. Yeah, so I think if you are on the phone, if you do want to, if you have any questions or comments, please do unmute. Yes.
Hi, this is Cynthia. I would just like to give a shout out to Ken. He came on board and then, in the start of all this, was willing to take it on, and he took it on just full bore. And I think the tribe's very fortunate that he came on board when he did.
Thank you, Cynthia.
And I see Joanne's hand up.
Hi, Ken, great presentation. And your style of presenting, I really appreciate. You make it easy to understand. So thank you. Do you know how many tsunami towers exist?
Thank you for yeah, thank you for asking that question, because I meant to state This is the first of its kind in the United States. It was styled similarly to those found in Japan, namely Tohoku. And we knew from their experience that they work. Currently, I want to say FEMA has about 43 locations in mind, and I forget the state has more than that in mind for, to dot the Pacific coastline here in Washington State. I don't recall that number off the top of my head, but I believe it's more than 43. And this project was the pilot. It was the first of its kind. And Ocean Shores, I know, was looking at it. Westport is pretty close to starting theirs. And I know others are still in the imagination phase of, how do we execute this? Where do we get the money, et cetera?
Well, so Japan is a culture that reveres their elders. And so the whole thing about the accessibility, did you model yours after theirs in that way too? So you said the stairs are graded in a way to make them as accessible as possible in lieu of having an elevator or a lift.
I don't know the answer to that question, Joanne.
Okay.
I don't know specifically regarding the grade of the stairs and the accessibility to those with handicaps. I don't know how Japan addresses that. I do know that theirs are only accessible by stairs as well, as is the one in the Acosta school. Simply put, elevators aren't an option post-earthquake.
Yeah.
So the best solution that I came up with, talking to a slew of different people, was some paramedics who reminded me that they use stair chairs to get people up and down stairs, and on those stairs it would make it particularly easy. So I haven't ordered them yet, but I'm going to equip each stairwell with a stair chair, just kind of easily removed from the railing at the base or landing of the stairs at ground level. Ideally, people showing up there during an emergency encounter someone who has limited use of their legs, perhaps, would be able to help those folks up those stairs using that stair chair. And I'll have some signage that says what the thing's there for and how it may be used to help somebody in that situation. Also, at some point in the near future, we've already done an introduction to the community with the tower and what it can and can't do. That was, what was the date for the Great Shakeout, guys? October something.
October, yeah.
Yeah, so this past October, we did a live exercise with some advertising in advance, telling folks, hey, if you live within this walk zone, I provided maps that DNR put together, the walk maps for our peninsula. They did a fantastic job. Karina Allen and team just really remarkably well done. And the hazard mitigation team from Washington came out and they walked the different walk times listed on the DNR walk map to verify the truth of it. Computer modeling was correct. They nailed it. In fact, the hazard mitigation team was a group of young, spry folks, so they did better than the walk times listed on the map, but that's to be expected. Those are average walk speeds for, the entire spectrum of people's abilities.
So it sounds like, you have done community outreach. You hit part of on to a big already existing event like the Great Shakeout event in October, and you've engaged different partners to help you assessing different parts of your plan and tower. Brilliant. Good on you. Bless you.
Thank you very much for your feedback. I appreciate that.
Wow.
And I see Cynthia, did you put your hand back up or was that from before?
Hey, this is Sam,
Oh, hey, Sam, sorry about that.
coordinator with Fort Campbell. I was just wondering if there was a cost benefit analysis that FEMA required for the grant.
There was a cost benefit analysis required, and it has been 2 years and change since I looked at that, and I couldn't speak to you intelligently about it, but I can answer the question and say, yes, that was a requirement.
Thanks.
And they actually, the tribe, it's coming back to me a little bit. The tribe went out and hired a company, and I don't recall the company's name, that did that workup and provided that analysis for us. And they did it rather quickly because that had to happen in that very narrow, like 2 month time frame to even qualify for that initial grant. Also comment that a lot of that early work was funded by the tribe. That 36,000 pre-award didn't cover everything by any stretch. The tribe forked out quite a bit of money on that. Yeah, another thing that has been discussed with the hazard mitigation team at state level, and I know some of these issues and lessons learned from our experience have gone out to FEMA as well, to come up with a more streamlined process of grants funding opportunities specifically for tsunami towers. Did that answer the question, Sam?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there questions or comments for Ken? All right, well, thank you so much, sir. And I think we will give you 2 thumbs up with the go of using this for the next time.
Awesome, thank you.
So
Good.
anytime you need to be a pilot, we are here.
Awesome, thank you, appreciate that. I may take you up on it.
This is phenomenal work, and also, I mean, in what you shared too early on in the presentation of the context within which this was happening, in the timeline that you were working in March 2020, and the fact that you were able to move this forward within the time that you did is truly phenomenal, and I think shows, you know, what is possible.
Appreciate that. And you know, it's important that nobody looks upon me and gives me any credit for that. I wasn't here. Lee Shipman, obviously my predecessor, she championed it, and that wasn't without a considerable amount of help from many others in the tribe, the planning department, and quite a few others. They were burning the midnight oil to meet that timeline, and they pulled it off. And thanks to them, I had this project wrapped up in a nice clean bow and dropped to my lap and said, "Here you go, Ken. Good luck. Make it happen." So that was that work that's been accomplished, where it initially fell on the shoulders of those people.
And I was curious too, real quick, is just if you know, if you have seen ways that for communities who haven't been, you know, don't have the funds, the backing to have that 10% match, of any avenues that you yourself have seen that folks have been able to utilize and draw from to be able to go for these funds to make that work.
So Acosta School District was able to do their project with no funding from FEMA. They went out to the community and got bonds and what have you. They did it entirely from within the community. So that can be done, but Westport is a bustling tourist town. It's a bustling marina and port. So there are funds rolling into that community. Poorer communities, there are some options being worked on. I don't know the state of completion on those to make it more accessible to those with a weaker economic stance. But I know it's forthcoming. I just don't know when. I don't have a clear view of that at the FEMA, Washington, D.C. level.
No, I appreciate that. And I am curious, Joanne, really appreciate you coming on And not to put you on the spot, but I'm wondering, if you do have any insights into if those, changes might be anticipated down the line that folks might be able to look for.
I don't know.
That is very fair. Thank you. Thank you. But this is fantastic, fantastic work, Ken. Everybody really appreciate the comments that have come in with this. So thank you, sir. And Ken has graciously given us permission to, we'll have the recording for y'all and the slides, so anything to revisit back on. And I hope okay if folks reach out for, follow-up questions that we can put you all in touch.
Appreciate that. And just to make this about me for a brief moment, so I don't fall flat on my face on that summit later, any honest feedback, and if you're not comfortable sharing it here, you can email me. I am very thick-skinned. I want to hear any flaws, faults, or failures that may have occurred, how I might do better next time. I appreciate that input, because it's going to be quite myself sitting in that room, so I'd like to make a good show of it, not embarrass myself or the tribe.
Very fair. I thought it was fantastic, so I have no immediate feedback. And if anyone does want to chime in,
And that could be later, so it's not.
I would also say silence is bliss sometimes in that
Indeed.
context.
No news is good news.
Take that as a positive.
Smile and wave.
Well, thank you, sir. Oh yes, exactly what Joanne just shared. Love it. All right, so we have I think what we'll do, so we have about 30 minutes, and I do want to be sure that we reserve enough time at the end here to go through any retreat logistics, things we need to talk through. So what I'm thinking, we're thinking of kind of breakout groups, but maybe if we just stay together here, and if we take the next just 10 minutes or so. I don't know if Kelsey, would you be able to share real quick the document that we shared about the considering natural hazards?
Yes, I shared it at the beginning, but I will put
Or
it in there
yeah, if you
again.
can
Share
yeah,
it on the
that would be,
screen.
yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Sorry, I know I just dropped that on you. And so while Kelsey's putting that on, what I was thinking, if we could just take a few minutes here, if we kind of started with this idea of, what is it that keeps you up at night, and thinking about the mitigation actions that your community is already focusing on, that you're already doing, that can really be built upon. This doesn't always have to be, reinventing the wheel or starting from scratch. It's thinking what's already happening, maybe what's in process, what's been discussed that could be moved forward with. So just wanted to open up the space here. What are the signals for, that of what actions need to be taken based on the changes that are starting to be seen. And so I wanted to see, Kelsey, if you don't mind, could you go back to the PowerPoint slides? Awesome, thank you. If you can go up to 5. I don't know how you do all you do, but thank you. Awesome, thanks. So yeah, so just before we get into kind of the retreat stuff here, did want to share with y'all that in that for our shared the cohort website that we have, as we shared last time, we have that emergency management page with a lot of resources posted there already. And as part of that, there's also some engagement resources as well to be thinking about. Part of the document that we had sent you with these questions was also, considering what community engagement strategies that you might be using to identify the mitigation actions and then be implementing them and evaluating them. And so, some of these could be templates that you might consider. Some are activities in terms of questionnaires that you might be doing with the community, developing an engagement outreach plan to implement, some tabletop exercises of building scenarios, activities such as, a little similar to this of, really thinking about, what is the problem, what is the hazard, and what are the steps to mitigation, and then the prioritization aspect. And we're going to be touching on some of this as well in our retreat together, especially around, you have now this whole bundle of options here and everything's important. And so where do you start? What do you prioritize first when everything feels like it needs to happen at once? So working through this process together. And so just wanting folks to know, that there's a lot of cascading and intersecting, events and hazards that you're not alone on, right? That you have a whole cohort here who is also considering these, looking at ways to address. And so hope that we can continue to come together, and share in a good way to really learn from each other. And so again, really deeply grateful for all of you who shared just now, and for Ken, sharing the steps that they took to get their tower set up as a really, I think, stunning example for folks as to what is possible. And so with that, I do want to be sure that we do have time, as I said, for any retreat logistics. So Kelsey, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much, Julie, and everyone else for sharing here. So our retreat logistics. So we will be lodging, we'll be staying at the Hilton downtown Anchorage. The address is there on the screen for you. And then we will be meeting at the Atwood building, and that address is also on the screen here for you. So it's about a 7-minute walk. And, like the slide says, if you have any reduced mobility issues, let ITEP know, and we will make sure that we can do that transportation for you. So that is the first piece. Another piece, I'm going to just drag this over here. So we have about 31 responses to this travel form currently, and anyone who is planning on coming to the retreat must fill this out. We will be sending a final rooming list here this afternoon. So if you haven't, please fill this form out as soon as we get off this call. I'll also drop it here in the chat for everybody. And maybe you can take a look at that as we go through some of these logistics here. So yes, priority is definitely this travel form if you want and need lodging, so that we can book that under our room block. And let's see. Okay, a few other things. So we also have a fact sheet that we created. So we'll send that out after or along with today's follow-up that goes into a lot of detail about many of these things. But, some of the highlights. So flights and ground transportation. So if your tribe has received its Category 12 funding, then you are responsible for making your own flight arrangements and ground transportation. If your flight has not received the funding, then please let ITEP know, and we will be responsible for paying for your flights and reimbursing you for your ground transportation. So I don't think we have many of those yet. So please send those to me. I know I am helping do that coordination. So I will drop my email here in the chat for you all. Or you can just respond to any of the emails that get sent out. It will find its way to me. Like we talked about with lodging, we're making the room reservations and paying for lodging for all cohort members. So your job is to fill out that travel form and let us know what nights that you need accommodations for. And then for meals and incidentals, we will be reimbursing meals for all cohort members. And more detailed information will be in that fact sheet that we send out. So I'm happy to take any questions about this, but also it should be in the fact sheet. And then getting into a few logistics here in terms of the work,
Kelsey.
the pre-work. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Nikki.
Sorry, can you go really quick before you get into this? Can you go back to the other one?
Yes.
Yes, that one. So I know this is being recorded, and perhaps some of the cohort members who are not online, remember, you don't have to call. I just want to make a point of this because it happens quite a bit. Cohort members do not have to call the hotel, which is why, again, I'll just reiterate what Kelsey said a few times. Do not call the hotel. Just fill out that Google form to let us know your arrival and departure date. So if your departure date changes for whatever reason, just communicate that with ITEP, and then we'll work with the hotel. So when ITEP / Kelsey submits that rooming list of all the names, your arrival, departure dates, we're going to submit that to the hotel, and we'll get confirmation numbers. So that, and then we'll pay by direct bill. You know, we're paying lodging only. So of course, any other incidentals, you're going to have to pay on your own. So I just want to make that clear. And for the meals, you do not have to keep receipts, and that will be on the fact sheet again. So all of this, so I just kind of want to say it out loud. And also emphasize for your flights and ground transportation, let us know soon so we can arrange your preferred flights as soon as possible. So I just want to make that a point. Don't call the hotel, just communicate with ITEP, whatever you do. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Kelsey. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Yeah, definitely important to have clarification on all those pieces. So thanks for chiming in there. And then so for this next piece, going into the winter retreat. So I'm gonna just bring the screen over for us. So I just dropped that link in the chat here for everybody. So this is on the cohort website. And we're gonna get into a few of the things that we need you all to prepare prior to the actual retreat. So the first one being a retreat a map that we'll be using. So you can either bring your own map, or if you'd like a really big version of your map, which we'll use during the retreat, then if you can email that to Elisa, who is on our call today, Elisa Morris, then we can get those printed for you. So 2 ways to do that: bring your own printed map, or send us a link and we'll print that out for you. So everything that's pre-work is going to be in this lime green font here, or color. And so the next piece is a plan checklist. I can click this and show what's going on there. But kind of getting into some examples about, you know, what a community plan checklist entails. So if you're able to, we'd love for you to bring electronic versions of your plans, any plans that you have already to the retreat. Thumb drives are always great. Great way to have all of those. And so I'm not going to scroll through this whole thing, but this gives you kind of a sense of some of the plans that we're talking about that would be useful to bring to that session. So I'll let you all scroll through that, but the link is, again, just here on this winter retreat website. And then finally, the last thing that we need from you all is a grant checklist. So I think really similar to the community planning checklist, we've got a grant workshop or a grant sheet here for you. So, you know, what are all the grants that your tribe is currently managing or applying for related to this work? And, you know, just a table here to help kind of organize that information. And yep, that's for later. So all the information is here on this site for you, and we can send out this in the follow-up notes as well. just in case you lose this link, but I think that's it in terms of the retreat pre-work. And yeah, just kind of bringing your attention, the coordinator cohort website, and then the emergency management page. You know, a lot of what we've been going through in the last 2 sessions are featured here on this website right here, and it's all within the larger RMP website. So, you know, just some highlighting of links for you all here. So yeah, I think we can open it up. I knew we've only got a little bit of time here. So if you have any more questions related to the retreat, we're happy to take those. And then it looks like there was one question, maybe more related to our content today. So maybe we'll circle back to that after any retreat questions.
Thanks, Joel, for your comment in the chat box. You know, that was recognized. So, okay, cool.
Do you have an agenda for the cohort retreat yet?
Yes, so we've been hard at work putting together an agenda. And I know someone asked for, we have a draft agenda, so it has not been finalized, but if for some reason you need the retreat agenda for you know, approval purposes in order to come and travel and things like that, let us know, because we did get one request this week and we're able to send a draft agenda out. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, can I get one of those, please? This is Genevieve.
Sure. Yep.
Thank you.
I'll work on sending that to you.
We also, too, May, would it be helpful to, at least just as an overview, just for the start and stop time, or like start and end times each day?
Yeah. Let's see. Do you want me to go over that, Julie, or?
Yeah, just so like folks let you know that you know, we'll be starting I think about 8:30 on Tuesday morning. So getting, you know, making sure to be in Anchorage the evening before, and then we'll be wrapping up between 5 and 5:30 each day, depending on a little bit different Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So just let you know, make sure that everyone's aware as well, that you know, we will be going through the day Thursday. It is a full day. So just making sure that's considered into your travel planning.
Yeah, and I think it probably just makes sense to send out this draft agenda to everyone in the follow-up email. So we'll go ahead and include that for you all, just so you have a sense about what to expect.
All right. I think we're good on questions. Kelsey, do you mind go ahead and stop recording?